Hello, everyone, and welcome to Social Media and the Disability Conversation, How to Use Social Media for Advocacy and Influence. I am Lisa Flaowers. You can follow me on Twitter at Lisa L. Flaowers or any other social channel. I want to make sure we're comfortable, so they're going to give you instructions about how to use the mic if you have a question. At the end of the conversation or at the end of the workshop, I will also be taking questions as well. My lovely assistant here is also going to be passing out index cards. So if you have a question and you don't want to ask it during the session, you can write it on the index card, and then we'll pick them up at the end and I'll get those. And she's also going to be giving you a handout, which is a place that you can write notes from today's workshop. So I'll give her a chance to do that. And I'm going to move this sign because I don't think you can see me. Can you see me better now? A little better? All right, so we're going to get started in just a minute. I'll put it there. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you very much for having me here. This is my first time to this beautiful country, and everyone has been so nice. I really appreciate it. And feel free to connect with me on the different social channels. So my name is Lisa Flaowers, as I mentioned to you before we began. And we're going to be talking about social media. So when you're online, your name is what you're posting and tweeting and sharing. Today's agenda, we're going to go through this very briefly, so a big thank you again. The housekeeping is she's passing out a handout and an index card. And if you have a business card, if I don't have it, I'd love to have it so we can connect online. So either give it to me at the end, you can give it to her, and let's connect. We also welcome anyone wanting to do live tweeting or posting things online as I speak. I'm using the hashtag ICDR and Lisa in Riyadh. And at the end, we're going to have a prize drawing, so pay close attention. There's some prizes at the end for those of you who can answer some really simple questions. Then we're going to go into talking a little bit about my background and experience, and also how social media equals opportunities. And as folks are coming in, sit wherever you would like, and you can come and go as you like as well. The next thing we're going to talk about are 3 things and how to focus, and then lastly, the strategies and best practices on the different platforms. So a little bit about me. I am online as Lisa L. Flaowers, except on Instagram, someone got my handle first. So it's Lisa L. Flaowers 1 on Instagram. I'm a communications and business development professional, and I'm known as an American business strategist, a speaker, and an advocate. So remember those 3 things. We're going to be talking about that. I do teaching and tutoring and mentoring, and I also have a social business training and coaching company and consulting work as well. I've spoken, of course, all across the United States, as well as in Malaysia and Nigeria, and now here. So the 3 and 5 on this slide represents achieving 3 degrees in 5 years while working full-time and having a couple of part-time jobs and as a single mom. So I hope that that can serve as an inspiration for those of you who are busy, that sometimes we can juggle a little more, but that's what the 3 and 5 means. Come on in and be seated wherever you'd like. I'm fine. Hold on. We have to go ahead.
Can you repeat again the hashtag in English?
This isn't coming up on here. I'm sorry.
You need to do the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it for you. I can fix it.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much. All right, everyone, I apologize for that. So I should have looked at the screen again. So you're in the right place if you're here to talk about social media. And my name is Lisa L. Flaowers. And this is how you are known, whether you want to be known that way or not. Because you are what you tweet, what you share, what you post, and what you snap. The agenda today, I've kind of gone over that, but going back to the index cards and the handouts, my lovely assistant at the back is passing out handouts. You can take notes. The index cards is if you don't have a business card and you want me to have your information, write on the card, and you can give it back to her. Or if you have questions, write the questions down, and at the end, we'll answer those questions. And you can also use your mic. Make sure the red ring is coming on the microphone when you're ready to talk. Or you can raise your hand and we'll stop and turn the microphone on. We're also going to talk a little about me, social media, those opportunities, and I mentioned the 3 in the focus, and then those strategies and best practices. I am a business strategist. I also do a lot of speaking and also advocate for human rights, women's issues, and how to use social media for change. I've been doing communications and business development for more than 25 years, marketing, public relations, and public speaking, and teaching, tutoring, and mentoring, as well as now social business training and consulting and coaching. I've spoken, as I mentioned before, in Malaysia, Nigeria, across the United States, and of course now here. And then the 3 and 5 was me completing 3 degrees in 5 years, that you guys can do this, whether it's learning social media, learning strategies, or simply focusing on whatever it is that you want to get done. So this is just an example of some of my profiles. And you can see that across the profiles, there's some general consistencies, and we're going to talk about that as part of the focus. So you have my Twitter, and then my LinkedIn, and then my Facebook, and then my Instagram there. So you'll see consistency across the platforms, and we'll talk about that when it comes to the focus about your brand. So a little about me. My first adventure to Africa started with a tweet. And this was a tweet, I retweeted a journalist who was from Cameroon, living in Nigeria, and he was writing about human rights violations in Nigeria. And we became friends, and I made some more friends there as well as across Africa. And in 2012, I was asked, in 2014, I went to Lagos, Nigeria. Now, Lagos is the most populated city-state in the entire continent. And so I wanted to make sure before I went that I had connections. So one of the ways I used hashtags on Twitter is I developed my own. And if this thing is working, I'm going to point. So let's see. Let's see if it's working. Somewhere is a pointer. That's not it. Okay, the pointer's not working. But you can see the Lisa in Lagos hashtag in the bottom right. So anything I did online, if I was talking about Africa, I included that hashtag Lisa in Lagos. So here for this trip, I use Lisa in Riyadh. So that's a great way for a personal brand or an organization, if they have an initiative, an event, if they have a trip coming up, to kind of get people talking about it. So I started talking about it about 3 weeks before I went. I also used that to set up meetings. So by the time I landed in Lagos, all of my meetings were set up, all of the media interviews were set up, and people were listening to that conversation online. So as I posted pictures, I also included Lisa in Lagos as that hashtag. These are some pictures. And you just see how I use that hashtag throughout. It resulted in an 18% increase in the number of followers in the 17 days that I was there. So in a very short period of time, it really grew my Twitter following. And there was a huge increase in engagement. So I would be, for example, at a radio station doing a live interview and tweeting using my hashtag, and a TV station might tweet and say, hey, we'd love to interview you. We'll send a car for you tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. So it was just a really great way for people to follow the conversation about what I was doing, not only in Lagos, but across the United States and wherever my followers were. Those ongoing conversations, as I mentioned, led to impromptu interviews with BBC World Service, MTV, CNBC Africa, and some others. And it helped me reach a new audience, as well as strengthen my existing one. I was invited to go back and speak, and I went back in 2015 and spoke throughout the country to educational institutions, to journalists, to college students, to professionals on how to use social media for influence and change. And I also spoke at Social Media Week in Lagos, which is the continent's largest social media event. So I have a lot of people talking about me, and online sometimes that's not good, but in this case it is good because I've used social media to get media attention. And these are some of the organizations that I've been quoted in. And all of that comes through social media, because of social media. Very briefly, we'll talk about digital around the world. With a population of 7.6 billion, and 3.2 of those billion are using social media, more people are using it from their mobile than their desktop overall. Here in this country, is that correct about the population, or about, is that about correct? Around that? Okay. Because every survey is different, and they'll tell you this, this is the population, or this platform is better, or this is what people are using. So the numbers are kind of approximate. But 25 million people in Saudi Arabia are using social media in some form, and most of them, as you can see, are using their mobile. So one of the things I also wanted to share with you, that as professionals and as organizations, if you're not using social media, you are giving away your voice. You are giving away your voice to the minutia and the millions and millions of other conversations that are being had online. So we're going to talk about how to build that out. Because social media is the modern day word of mouth. And social media is also the modern day world of mouth, because that's really who you can reach. Social media offers a lot of opportunities. You can educate the public about what it means to be disabled. It also allows people with disabilities to become self-advocates without even having to leave their own homes. And I'll share with you, for example, I was sharing that I did a couple of Facebook Live interviews back at the hotel at night. And so I have a really nice top on and everything's fine and good, and on the bottom I have pajamas. So you can do Facebook Live and not have to be all dressed up right from your home. It also promotes empowerment within the population and allows for discussion and advocacy about the effective and efficient programs and policies. And your Vision 2030, this is right in alignment with how it can go hand in hand with that. So we're going to talk about 3 things. This is really important when you're using social media. You want to focus on 3 things in terms of what do you want your organization to be known for? And what does your organization do? And those 3 things need to be integrated across all of your channels. Traditional, which that could be brochures, business cards, print media, TV, radio, billboards. Digital, your website, email newsletters, and social media as well. And you want to educate your team on those three things, because you want everyone singing the same song when it comes to your organization. You want everyone saying the same thing, the same vision, the same focus. Toys and home base. What this means is that if you do not have a website and or email addresses that you're sending out an email newsletter to people, if you're only using one platform, if Facebook or LinkedIn or Snapchat decided, I'm taking my toys and I'm going home, which means I'm going to start charging you money to use this, a lot of people wouldn't be able to use it anymore. Or what if you couldn't afford it and all of your audience, your entire audience, was on social media? So make sure that you have a home base, such as a website or a blog. You can get a free blog at blogger.com. A domain name, and make sure it's hosted. Because in the end, if everything goes away, or the channels change, or something happens, or they lose data, you still want a way to reach your audience. As a professional, my three things kind of change a little bit, but they stay the same. So you'll see, as a professional, strategist, educator, advocate. Or maybe I'm strategist, speaker, mom. As an organization, I own Flaworz Media Matters, which is a consulting firm where we teach organizations how to reach across cultures to communicate and advocate. So my firm does marketing, public relations, and social media. But we could also use communications, PR, and event planning. And you can see across those channels, my LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, there's consistency in those three words, those three things, as best as we can have it, meaning different platforms allow you to put different types of images and stuff. So we're going to do an exercise right now about your three things. You can either do it as a professional or as your organization. So the handout that you've been given, if you have a pen, I want you to really think about that in terms of, what are your three things? As a professional, what are the three things you want to be known for? It doesn't mean that you have to be doing them today. So what do you want to be known for? Maybe it's something that you strive to be. Maybe it's something that you have an interest or a passion for. And you know what they say about passion? Passion is what you do when you're sitting there wasting time that's fun or interesting or engaging to you. So that could very well easily be your passion. What is that thing that you look up and all of a sudden 3 hours have passed? And you're like, wow, time went by. As a professional, whether you're an occupational therapist, a psychologist, a student, what are your three things you want to be known for? Program manager, speaker, teacher, physical therapist, advocate, speaker. As an organization, what would you like to be known for? So I was with Saudi Rehab Group, and we did a Facebook Live session. And so we talked about their three things. Yours might be advocacy. Yours might be resources. Yours might be clothing. It could be many, many different things. And here's some more again, is advocacy, finance, resources, education, inclusion, change, etc. Your three things are important because otherwise you're all over the place talking about so many different things and sharing content about many, many different things. So write it down, keep it in front of you, make sure you use it, make sure your team uses it, and then make sure you share it. And what I mean by that is a tweet that simply says, this year I'm focusing on these three things. I want to really grow in these three ways. Our newest initiative focuses on these three things. Our audiences are these three audiences. Another tip, do not try to do everything and to be everything to everyone. You can't. You are unique. Your organization is unique. If you can't articulate how your organization is unique, go back to the three things. What do you want to be known for? And again, it all circles back to social media, right? So we're now going to talk about the different platforms, and I'll come back to those three things. WhatsApp is kind of the global go-to for texting and messaging. There's some groups and broadcasting within that. Facebook is your neighborhood. So whether it's a personal page or a business page, it's only people that know you, unless you're paying ads, you're buying ads. With the new algorithms with Facebook, it's even harder to grow your audience unless you're paying for ads. Instagram, of course, is all about the visual and the hashtags. LinkedIn is the online job board and career platform. And I'll stop briefly and chat about LinkedIn. If you are a professional and you're serious about your career, whether it's here in Saudi Arabia or whether it's elsewhere, you must have a LinkedIn profile. I'll say that again. You must have a LinkedIn profile for professional contacts. You don't want to be sharing your personal Facebook page or your Snapchat account if you're snapping about what you cooked for dinner last night or where this or that. So also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and you'll have that contact too. Twitter, guys, is the world's watering hole. It is where the world comes for news and what's going on. It's how you find out what happened. And we're going to talk about how to use Twitter for competitive intelligence. How to use Twitter to reach people that you would never have the opportunity to connect with. And Snapchat is very millennial, and snaps are blank. And I'm sorry, this slide, but snaps are temporary. So I left that blank to simply show the invisible part of Snapchat. In the United States, Snapchat is used by our millennials, but as a whole, as a marketer, as a business, we're finding it hard to get our hands around it because we want to know what's our ROI, what's our return on investment with that. But I've got some great examples to show you. So we're going to briefly go over the WhatsApp app. There are 1 billion plus people using it in 180 countries. I've used it in every country I've traveled to. Facebook owns it, and it's not the same marketing-friendly features that Facebook Messenger has. And here's some of the different things you can do on there. The one-to-one chats, I'm sure most of you use it. The broadcast list, and the groups. It's not as robust in terms of what you can do, the capacity as Facebook Messenger. So here's one of the, can you see this? It's a little blurry. I wonder if there's a way to focus that. This is one of the conversations in one of our groups that we have for this trip. And it's a way to share pictures and audio messages and things like that. And then, of course, here, this is one where Uber sent, a message to one of my friends here in terms of promoting themselves. So you can see it's a very simplistic approach, but it works if it's the right fit for your audience. Facebook, as I mentioned, is your neighborhood, and Facebook Messenger is the second most active messaging platform behind WhatsApp, but it is a pay-to-play. And what that means is if you want to play on Facebook and do business, you're going to pay for it. So remember how I talked about taking your toys and going home? We're kind of at that point with Facebook now. Groups are a fantastic way to build influence and trust. Use it also as a focus group. And Facebook Live is very hot right now. Facebook TV is really, really, really focused on getting business away from Google or YouTube. So YouTube, which is very, very, very popular across the entire world, they make billions of dollars in ad revenue, and Facebook wants some of that money. So they're really starting to promote Facebook TV. And there's just an example of some of the channels. You can use Facebook to promote your event. So if you have an audience that's using Facebook, certainly put your event on there so they'll at least know about it and it'll show up in their feed. You set up a Facebook event, you use it, it comes up on people's feed as suggested events. You can link it if you're selling tickets to a ticket selling site, and you can harvest email addresses. I will note that if you use Facebook to harvest the email, to get the email addresses, they don't give them to you. So if you use an external, like Eventbrite is used in the US, for example, you can get those email addresses. So just in thinking about that for future. You can also use Facebook to promote your event and what's going on during the actual event and uploading pictures, and encourage your staff, your attendees, to upload pictures and, of course, to check in at the event, because if you have an event page on Facebook, they're going to check in. You can encourage them to check in, rather. After the event, you can also provide a post about a recap. Here's what happened. Here's some pictures. Here's the videos. And you can encourage event attendees to post afterwards. And you can thank people for participating. If you're trying to get financial support, your vendors, your partners, your sponsors, your donors, this is a great way to do that after the event as well. You can also collect feedback about your event by posting questions or a survey link on Facebook. And you can invite them to stay connected by simply subscribing to that blog that I mentioned earlier, or your email newsletter, or joining the Facebook group. So this is an example, and I apologize, I didn't realize it was going to be difficult to see, of an event. And this is how easy it is. You have an image, and you're posting on that page. And here's one, a workshop I did, social media for nonprofits. So this was held at a local college. The college promoted it on their Facebook page. I promoted it and created the event on my Facebook page, because remember, Facebook is my neighborhood, and the university had their neighborhood, or the college rather. So I create events every time I have a workshop that locally normally. Facebook groups are a fantastic way if you want to become an immediate thought leader and influencer. Start a Facebook group, or start any group online. You're leading that conversation. It can be whatever you want it to be. Now, eventually, of course, you're going to have to make sure that your participants, it's what they want, but Facebook groups are a fantastic way. If you're trying to reach the US audience, the UK audience, Facebook groups are a fantastic way to do that. You will be seen as a leader. You can certainly gain influence within that group, insight, and trust. The audience are people who could be people who subscribe to your email newsletter. Maybe it's a very inclusive audience where you offer specials to people that subscribe to your email newsletter that are only these people in this group. Maybe it's a group of your current customers and you want to roll out a new program or a new version. Or maybe it's just anyone, because you never know who people know. You can offer exclusive discounts and insights. You can also host monthly Q&As inside the group and interview members. So you could do Facebook Live within your group. And then you can also share industry news as well. This is just a screenshot of one of the groups that I own or run, Marketing Strategies Group. It's a global group. We've got about 650 members now. We talk about everything social media, personal, whether it's professional development or with your business, NGO, and things like that. So some tips about Facebook is, number one, from a personal standpoint, build it out. If you're going to use it as your personal brand page, make sure that it's certainly completed with everything. If it's your business page, complete every section that they offer, because the more that you give Facebook information, and we just had a PR crisis with them. But from a business standpoint, you certainly want to complete all of your Facebook page areas. Make sure that if someone responds and comments, that you respond back negatively. Now, if you have 50,000 followers and you have 2,000 comments to post, that's a little challenging, but otherwise, respond immediately to them. If there's a problem or there's trouble or someone's unsatisfied, do not ignore that, because people are watching what you do online. So if someone's complaining about something, make sure that you address the issue online publicly first. And then you can say, you can say, for example, I'm so sorry that you had a bad experience. We want to fix that. We want to take care of you. Can you send us a message or an email? Here's how to do that. You can use it to drive traffic to your website or your more active social media channel. So maybe you're like, Lisa, I'm using Twitter no matter what. I'll be on Facebook, but I'm going to use Twitter. That's fine. You just need to let people know that on Facebook. So you can still drive traffic from that smaller audience on Facebook or less active. And I mentioned before about sharing YouTube videos on Facebook. If you've been posting YouTube videos, put them on Facebook. Put them on your Facebook page. Next, we're going to talk about Instagram. Before we get into that, I just want to make sure that everyone has been able to hear me clearly. I'm not speaking too quickly. Is everybody okay? Okay, good. Instagram is the visual platform, and Facebook owns it. Can you see a trend here with Facebook? Hashtags make all of the difference. Every post that you put on Instagram should have hashtags, because people search using hashtags. You can follow anyone and vice versa, and you can promote what you're doing and planning as well. So here's an example of what I did. So here's my Instagram profile, and as you'll notice, the bottom left is a picture of this event. So a couple of weeks ago, as I was fine-tuning things for this presentation, I snapped a picture of it and posted it on Instagram with hashtags saying, I'm headed here and there to talk about this and that. And I'll show you in the next picture. So you can see all of the hashtags that I had on there. I had speaking, creating bridges, travel, social media, inclusion, disability, rehabilitation. And then I talked a little bit about the conference. So when people look at my Instagram account, they know, what does Lisa do? She does something that involves speaking somewhere, right? So talk about what you're doing, what you're going to do, what you've done, what you're working on, whom you're meeting, whom you want to meet, and use applicable hashtags. What I normally do is, if it's an event, and so for example, if it's an event in Saudi, for example, then I might look up the hashtag Saudi Arabia as an example and see what hashtags other people are using, because it's probably some I didn't think of. So don't reinvent the wheel. Just look and see what's working well for others too. And also use your branded hashtags such as Lisa in Lagos or Lisa in Riyadh. And comment and respond. Now, one trend I'm noticing on Instagram is people will sometimes hijack the tweet, the post rather, and they'll put like an advertisement link on there, right? So that's spamming. So I call that person out publicly on Instagram, and I'll say, why are you spamming this post? And try and figure that out. And I don't have to solve world problems by it, but I want them to know this is unacceptable, and then I block them. So that's how I do that. But you want to make sure that what's in your feed, those comments, if it's inappropriate comments, you need to get rid of it. You should address it and then get rid of it, because you don't want something inappropriate. These are just some other posts. So the one in the middle, what could you talk about for 30 minutes with absolutely no preparation? That's where your 3 things are, or where they could be, as a professional or as an organization. The one on the left was 2018 goals, and it was shine my light, help others shine their light. So it wasn't so, the middle one's a little bit more businessy and professional. The one to the far right is Justice Housing for an organization in D.C. And then the bottom one was the Martin Luther King Day at a big church in D.C. And then the middle one is a statue of a horse in D.C. And then the other is hats. And with each of those are hashtags. So here's when I'm trying to build a certain audience. I might create a what I call ad, an image in Canva. So what do you guys use right now for creating images and graphic design? What, do you use, for example, Publisher, Illustrator? Yeah. So if you're like me, I'm not really technical, for example, and I use Canva, canva.com. I can do it quick, and it's easy, and it's free. So what you see on here on the left, it says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose wisely. This applies to social media as well, because birds of a feather flock together. Who you're hanging out with on social media, what you're tweeting, snapping, sharing on social media is who people think you are. Now, the blue arrow that you can't see down below is I brand this. Now, I didn't write you're the average of 5 people, so I put unknown, but below it, I branded it Lisa L. Flowers with my Twitter handle. And you'll look to the right. I also typed in the content in the text. You are the 5 people, you're the average of the 5 people, and there's hashtags as well. Here's another event that I was presenting at, again, working on something. I'm looking forward to presenting at, and I tagged the organizations, sold out event, and I used their hashtag, and then I put a whole bunch of other hashtags that were applicable. Again, lets people know, what are you doing? And so, for example, our videographer back there, perfect example. If I were him, I would be taking pictures of pictures, right? You're taking a picture of someone speaking, so you're doing it behind the camera so people can see the camera. So they're going to associate that like, oh, that's what he's doing as a professional. Here's another one where I created a very simple ad that I upload, created it in Canva. And if you look at the bottom again, it's Lisa L. Flowers. This is for Human Rights Day. So even though my organization doesn't necessarily deal with human rights, I deal with advocacy. So it's part of a bigger conversation. And again, I use those hashtags over to the right as well. These are some other Instagram posts, so you get an idea of what does she do. She speaks a lot, does a lot of presentations, and then I apparently have a child like the beach, and another one over there is a note that he wrote. So they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is one of my favorites. So this was an Instagram post. And that's my son, Alejandro, with his animals. This is just the skies in Delaware, which is a state I was living in. A beautiful sunset filled with so many different colors. So think about the things around you, because each of these have their own, focus when I make that post. I'm not showing you all the content, but I'm showing you that the images can be anything. So if you see this, maybe this is an image that's about thoughts, family. It could be an image about animals and zoos and stuff like that. Maybe it's simply about vision or seeing. This could be about how if you keep going and keep focusing and keep looking up, it can be whatever you want. And this one was, serenity and sunset. This was in a field across from my house in Delaware where I used to live. This is, I don't know if that was wheat or some sort of feed for cows. Again, just pictures that you can use. This was another one I took right outside my house. This is a picture of my son when he was younger. It's about attitude. That post was about attitude. And this is a blurred picture. It's even blurrier if they're on the screen, but it's in action and on the swing. So it's about family when I was posting and really focusing on taking time to breathe and spend time with your family. And this one's about getting up and going, right? Having that energy. And again, going back to that beach. So now we're going to focus on LinkedIn. And again, it's the world's largest professional platform. Use it for your career, use their jobs board, use their groups, or start your own group. And I think this is a billions number, so that's, no, maybe that is millions, the 546 million, that might be right, but I want to say it's billions. It seems a little low. But there are 200 plus countries using LinkedIn. If you're not, you should be. LinkedIn has a publishing platform that's kind of like LinkedIn's own blog. And boy, if you're posting content anywhere else and it's applicable to business, post it on LinkedIn. You can copy and paste, do your headline. It can be 3 paragraphs. It does not have to be this entire huge abstract, very brief. You can include a link, include an image if you can, which is best. I'm seeing people really, really grow their brand and their organizations using this publishing platform. Now, you can also share other people's content, but the publishing platform you really want to be a part of. So let's say that you're doing, let's just take marketing because that's what it is. So let's say I'm doing marketing, but I want to focus on the medical field. That's where I want to get new clients from. What would I be posting? Maybe I'm posting about how doctors and the medical field can use social media, to gain trust. United States, we have HIPAA and some other things over there, but just how to gain trust overall or to increase their expertise. Make sure that you and your organization have a profile. That way, when you're doing your profile, you can link to theirs to say, I'm working at this, and the logo will show up. If your leadership is trying to build a higher level of influence, having a LinkedIn profile is very, very important. So these are just some of the areas on LinkedIn on your profile. I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to bring up each of my profiles live, so I did screenshots and I put arrows. So here you see experience. You'll see the logo beneath or to the left of Business Strategist Consultant, Flavorz Media Matters. And then you list your experience. To the left of that, where you see the picture and the image and the header, there's those 3 things. And then you can put within your description other words as well. A tip that I found out, you can see right below my name is a very brief headline. Most people, I use my desktop, my laptop for LinkedIn a lot. If you edit on your mobile, it will give you more space, supposedly, with that headline. That's what they say. So anyway, if you need more room on there, supposedly you can do it that way. You can also include on there places in media and other documents. So I include where I was quoted in USA Weekly and USA Today. And then I also include presentations that I've done. It's kind of like an online portfolio. Even speaking at this conference, I noticed some speakers in the room. I highly recommend you upload that to your LinkedIn profile as well. This is the educational part of that. Do not overlook that, and do not overlook your volunteer work, which is to the right. So I was sharing with my assistant over there who's headed off to college soon, don't overlook the experiences that you're having here as a volunteer. Encourage your volunteers to post their stuff as well. If there's a big project that they're working on, make sure that your organization has a LinkedIn business profile. Encourage your volunteers to list what they're doing with you there. That's making them part of the conversation and them being your ambassador too. Recommendations are very important on LinkedIn. Recommendations, in the past, we would have a recommendation letter normally. You still use those a little bit. But this is a great way if you've done business with someone to ask for a recommendation and post it on LinkedIn so it connects them with you as well, and other people can view that. Even if you're volunteering or you have volunteers, offer to do a recommendation for them on LinkedIn. What I normally do is say to people, how about if I put something together? Again, going back to those 3 things you want to focus on. How about if I put something together and you can look at it and edit it and see how that works? That way they're not having to stop and think about it, unless there's something they really want to give you kudos for. Your connections are important because this is how you know who you know and how you connect with other people. So if you and I are friends on connections on LinkedIn, but I don't know this gentleman, but you do, I'm able to see that you know him. And if he's someone I want to do business with, I might reach out to you and say, would you mind doing a brief introduction? I'm really looking for some help in this area. And he might, that kind of thing. So it shows you the different levels. Ladies, thank you for coming. Let's go to Twitter next. Twitter is the world's watering hole, as I mentioned, with 180 million tweets a day. You can follow anyone and anyone can follow you. Twitter lists are a fantastic way to organize and strategize, and they can be public or private. How many folks use Twitter in here? Limited? Okay. Don't overlook Twitter. Do not overlook Twitter. Twitter's how I got to Africa, as an example. So we're going to talk about list. Competitive analysis. List can be used for that. And I also will talk about my Wonder Women and the branded hashtag. And Twitter chats as well. Twitter chats are simply a way for people that use Twitter to have conversations, and they all follow the same hashtag. Twitter chats are normally scheduled, so once a week or every 2 weeks or once a month. I co-host a Twitter chat. I interview guests on my Twitter chat, and it's all around a hashtag. So again, focusing on those 3 things when you're tweeting, retweeting, and following. Some people are a little confused by Twitter. They're like, I don't really get what that tweet thing is and all of that. I'm going to take a sip of water right quick, excuse me. I don't really get what that's all about. Twitter is so simple that it's confusing. Yes, ma'am.
When you're first getting started on Twitter, what is the best way to build up followers?
As an organization or as a professional?
Both.
Okay. So the first question I'll ask you is why do you want more followers? Why do you want a lot of followers?
Well, if you're leveraging this to get your word out and to build your brand, I'm thinking that you want to have as many followers as, and maybe that's not true. Maybe the hashtags do exactly what you need it to do.
Yeah, so the reason I ask that is because a lot of people will say, well, I want to get to 20,000 followers in 6 months, or I want this or that. What you really want is engaged followers. So that's the key, is to get engaged followers, because all the followers in the world don't mean anything if they're not even reading your feed. So think about Facebook right now. Facebook right now, my friends don't see what I post half the time, right? But the people that do engage with me, that like and comment, they see me. So the very same thing is applicable with Twitter, especially as they go more and more and more towards continuing to monetize that platform. It is going to be about that engagement level versus number of followers. So focus on those 3 things and reaching the audience that needs or wants or doesn't even know they need or want that thing yet. Having a bajillion followers is great, but if you're not talking to them or they're not communicating with you and engaging, it's probably not getting you what you need. I do hear you when you say about leveraging all of those across those channels. That's particularly important. We're going to talk about lists, and that may answer some questions for you. That it might be a better way for you to figure out about those audiences. So we'll get to that. Let me go to this next one. So here's an example right quick with cross-promoting your channels. And these are actually, is she in here? I'm trying to see if she's in here that has her business card. So these are some people I met while I was here who have their social profiles on their business cards. So they're telling people, I want to talk to you on social media, or follow me on social media, or I'm having conversations on social media by those simple steps. And I put a note on there, and you can see the post rather. It says, I'm so pleased to have to meet these amazing women behind these organizations. I tag them. I love that they include their hashtags, social media handles on their business cards. Be sure to follow them. And then I included the hashtags at the bottom. So every method that you are currently using, whether it's free or paid for, use it to promote your social channels. It's free advertising for your social channels. It's a free way to get new followers. And another thing I might mention is email signatures. You know how you get an email from someone that just has their first name or their last name and maybe a phone number? Include your social media information on there or a link to your website. Use those hashtags, and of course give a shout out to people when you meet them. There's no bigger motivator in wanting to connect with someone. If you've gone to an event like this, you've collected some business cards or some social profile handles, and you want to connect with people, just say, it was so nice to meet you, or here's a list of all the people I met. Be sure to follow them. Now, maybe they're not following you yet. But once you call them out, and you call them out in a good way on social media and you're nice to them, they might follow you. And then you continue that conversation. This is a Twitter chat I co-host. You don't have to have a license. You don't have to have money to start your own Twitter chat. If your organization is focusing on advocacy for people with disabilities, perhaps people that are visually impaired, maybe it's Vision Chat. It doesn't have to be based in Saudi Arabia, because guess what? Twitter is global. Or maybe, we have chats called Media Chat, we have Blog Chat, we have HR Chat. They have Snapchat as a hashtag, a Twitter chat. It can be anything. You can make it up. Just make sure to research it, because sometimes hashtags are being used, in ways that maybe you don't want to be associated with. But you don't own your hashtag unless you're Nike or Four Seasons or something like that, and then you've got a brand associated with it a little bit, and that's a little bit different. So host a Twitter chat, because it's a fantastic way to lead the conversation. If I were, a larger organization, and maybe I didn't have the resources to have someone host a weekly Twitter chat, maybe I host a monthly Twitter chat, and you promote it on every social channel. You promote it on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and LinkedIn and, of course, Twitter. Maybe you put the schedule out there and say every second Thursday at noon, we're holding our Twitter chat. Be sure to join us. So create and market that hashtag for your chat, and then invite guests. You can interview anybody you want as long as they say yes. Yeah, there you go. Right. You see? So one of the things about social is if people are using social, they're social. And they want you to reach out to them. So before this trip, I had someone I met, and he still had my business card from 2 years ago in Nigeria, and he now has this huge podcast with a very global following. And he just messaged me a couple weeks ago before I left and said, hey, I'd love for you to be a guest, in May on my podcast. I'm like, great, awesome. He said, I'll put together this series of ads, so I'll share that promotion that he's doing, so just like the Twitter chats. It is a really fantastic way to build momentum and followers. So as a business, maybe you want to partner with someone, another organization that either is reaching your audience or an audience you want to reach. I mentioned being a guest on a chat. For this particular chat, we were talking about integrating social media with traditional and digital. So we put an ad out, and this is the tweet that we do. If there's a guest, if we have time, we'll include an image of them sometimes and their handle on there as well. The other way to get online influence is be a guest on a chat. Reach out to people that are hosting chats who are reaching the audience you want to reach. And this is the Twitter list part of that, which is a fantastic way. This is UN Women. They have 14 public lists, and lists are simply a way to organize people on Twitter. So instead of having to go to all of these different Twitter accounts that you want to follow and find out what they're talking about, you just group them in a list. Then you go to the list, and you can look and see what they're talking about. Now on the right is where that's the accounts on the list. So these are the people in your list that you've grouped. And then these are some of the tweets. You can easily and quickly see what they're tweeting about. You don't have to go to every single Twitter profile. So the UN created this list of UN agencies. And that's a quick and down and dirty way. Now guess what it also does? It gives the rest of us a way to get to know those UN agencies as well. So that's very smart. If you're trying to partner with an organization, put them on a Twitter list. Make it public. Call the list organizations I'd love to work with, or organizations making a difference. I have a list called Wonder Women. And almost, if I can remember, every time I do it, I add every single female to the Wonder Women list, as long as their profile is respectable and professional. So I do go and look at people's profiles to see what they're posting. If they're posting something that I don't want to be associated with, whatever that is, then I may not add you to that. But it's a quick and dirty way, and now I have 5,000 people on that list that I can go really quickly to and find out what everybody's talking about. Competitive intelligence-wise, lists are a fantastic way. Let me go back because there were some notes right there. So I just wanted to show you, these are some other lists. There's also lists, when you're added to a list, you're a member of that list. You'll get notification if it's a public list. But what if it's a private list? If it's a private list from a competitive intelligence standpoint, maybe you don't want to let your competitors know that you're watching them online by adding them to a list, right? You can put the list private, which means only you can see it. Then you can follow all of your competitors at once and see what they're tweeting about. And these are just some other tweets within that feed. So Twitter lists are a fantastic way to group organizations so you can easily and quickly get to them and see what they're tweeting and retweet. We're going to talk very briefly about Snapchat. Snapchat is, of course, very popular here. It's not as popular in the U.S. for business or for NGOs, non-governmental organizations. It's very popular with millennials. There's limitations in using it with traditional marketing, and we're still trying to figure out how to measure that ROI, that return on investment. So a lot of the big ad agencies are slowly getting into it, and I'll show you some examples. Of course, it's known for emojis and stickers, and they have some creative tools. You guys are probably very much aware of the community filters that you can use. Some of these are limited to personal use, so a business would not necessarily be able to use them. Filters, and then those lenses. And then, of course, you've got the geo filters, and these are only for personal use, and then the moment filters. So here's what MTV is doing in terms of Snapchat. They're giving the people that follow them access to exclusive content on Snapchat, and it's really offering a really great way to build meaningful presence on those other networks. So they're getting the millennials on Snapchat, but they're also pushing them to their other platforms as well. Here's Wawa, which is like a convenience store. So they sell gas and food items and things like that. And so they're offering ways to vote in product polls. So they'll say, what do you think about this? It's National Potato Chip Day. Which flavor do you like, or which one should we celebrate with? By taking screenshots of it and sharing it. So it's making those followers feel like their voice is being heard and that they have a say in that. And this is NASA. Now, NASA, of all places, you would not think they'd be on Snapchat because they're such a formal, serious organization. But they're coming up with some really creative ways to have those conversations and be part of those conversations, such as behind the scenes. So maybe you're trying to recruit volunteers, younger millennial volunteers for your organization. Maybe you have a behind-the-scenes snap on what it's like to volunteer here. So it helps you sell your value to that audience and the good that you're doing, and it keeps things fun and personable. We're going to talk a little bit about cross-promoting. So this is an example of promoting a Facebook Live event on Twitter. So I'm going to be having an event, and in this case, this is Shri, which is a fantastic person to follow. You smile? Do you know Shri?
You were speaking about.
Yeah. Every Sunday, he has a New York Times read-along where he reads the New York Times paper. He has a massive international following. And yesterday, from here, I was part of his read-along, or trying to be. The connections were bad. He was in India, and his friend was in Virginia, in the U.S. So he just reads the paper. So think about that, Maybe it's you going on and simply talking on Facebook Live about the challenges you face, the challenges disabled people face. Maybe you're trying to reach a new audience and you want to reach out to those people and simply say, how can we reach you? Who do you know? Facebook Live is informal. So it's okay to mess up. It's okay not to have everything right and done perfectly. They want it to be informal because they're trying to build that sense of community with that part of the live portion of Facebook. So this is how I promoted a Facebook event on a Twitter post. This is promoting an event such as this one on Twitter. So here's some examples of some of the folks from this event that they were promoting the event on Twitter. And also I included some business cards of some people that I met and talked about how great it was to meet them, and I tagged them in the Twitter. So this lets people know what's going on at the event, who you're meeting, that you're at the event, who you're trying to connect with as well. Promote your organization's participation at the event. So this is the Saudi rehab group here, and they're promoting on Twitter that they're at this event. And I would assume they're also going to promote when they finish the event. For me, I promote that I'm getting ready to do a presentation. So I take a picture of my laptop and post it on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and wherever. Same thing. You're planning an event, or you're trying to recruit volunteers or donors, or you've just finished an event and there's trash on the floor. Maybe that's the after effect of this event. You can say, well, we had a good time. Now we're cleaning up and our volunteers are great. We really appreciate the volunteers, as an example. And also, they're doing a great job on their cover image. If you'll notice on there, the hashtag that they're using, I don't know if you can see that, but they're promoting the event itself and themselves within their profile cover image. So that's something you can schedule on all of your platforms using Canva or Illustrator once every 2 months. If you have an event coming up that you're hosting, change your cover images on all of your platforms to talk about that event. Or if you're really trying to boost up registration or sponsorship, change it on all of those platforms. The other thing that they've done is they have a pinned tweet, which is basically a way for something that they tweeted that's important or that they want people to notice. They pin it at the top, so it's the first tweet that people see. And this is the power of the hashtag. The Women's March right after our recent presidential election. 11 million tweets in 24 hours from one hashtag. You can't buy that kind of media. You can't buy that type of advertising. And again, the good thing about Twitter is you never know who's following you. So anyone across the world can retweet it for you. Very quickly, we're going to talk about the content calendar, ways to keep it very simple. So you're like, well, we're posting whenever we think of things, or, oh, we have an article and we're sharing it. Maybe you want to post about what you've spoken about or what you're going to be speaking about, or your newest initiatives or things that you've got 5 years down the road. Post it on a calendar. And that can be a simple printed calendar off of Word. Or maybe, I know in the U.S. sometimes we get these free calendars, like an insurance company may give us a free calendar or something, and it goes on your wall. I take that down and I write on it on every day. So I include on there holidays and important days, National Eat Potato Chip Day, National Disabilities Day, which, if I'm not mistaken, is today. Is that correct? Autism Day, sorry, National Autism Day. So think of the national days or weeks and things like that. Industry news and events within your industry. Going back up to the top again, you can use a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or a Microsoft Word calendar. And you can also include events on this calendar. There's simply a reminder of what your clients are doing. You know, our client so-and-so, who we've worked with for 5 years, is doing this and this. Be sure to stop by this event, or, you know, be sure to follow them, just as a way to keep that conversation going. These are some examples of content calendars. This one was in Excel, I believe, and you see across the top it says the date. So this is saying here's the date we're going to post it. The title, what that might be, this says Content Marketing Tactics is going to be their post, when they're going to publish it, and the content type. If you don't have time to do your content, get volunteers or staff and have everybody contribute to the calendar with their ideas, and then it's done. If you're really lucky and they can write the tweet or the post at that moment, put it in there with the hashtags if it's applicable. Here's another content calendar, again done in Excel. It says topic and title, content details. I include the URL because I would think that most of the tweets or the posts or whatever's would include some sort of URL. So if I have it right at that moment, I include it in my calendar. Keywords, hashtags, and then who is the target? Who's the target audience? You probably have several target audiences, so maybe you focus on one a week of a different one. And then here's another spreadsheet, very simple. The first column says status update Monday. And here's some content they're already writing. We couldn't be more excited to announce this. And you insert whatever it is there. Tuesday is they had a hot job. Do you love being challenged by amazing peers and clients every day? Look no further for the perfect career move. And then down below it, it's the content type. So it's a press release on Monday they're doing. Tuesday they're doing a job post link. And then below that is their target audience. So on Monday, they're talking about an announcement that they're having. They're doing a press release. Their target audience is marketers, and they're going to publish it on LinkedIn and Facebook. On Tuesday, they're wanting to post a job. They have a job link. It's to designers, UX designers, and it's on LinkedIn and Twitter. Now, you don't have to get this detailed about it, but imagine what you could get done if you were able to do this and publish it like this and use this to publish it. Here's some content ideas. If you're like, oh, I don't really know, what am I going to post about, right? So remember going back to that calendar there. I'll let him take that picture. So going back to this calendar, that's 5 days, right? Well, here's about 20 things you could post. So this could fill up a month almost. And I'll tell you what they are. Inspirational quotes, your blog post, a tip of the day. There's behind the scenes, short video, content, ask questions. Maybe you're offering social-only promotions to your followers. Case studies. Maybe you're offering a free printable. Weekly roundup of, hey, here's what happened this week. Contest and giveaways, holiday specials, or encouragement. I'm sorry, so let me go back one more. Oh, no, that's not helping. The other thing on here was promoting your services. Now, out of all of those that we just talked about, there's only one promote your service, right? So that's how it is. 90% of what you're sharing and posting should not be about you. It's about how you can help others, how your products or service can help others. It's not sales-oriented. What else was on here I may have overlooked? Old popular content. Don't be afraid to reuse something that was really popular a year ago, or maybe it wasn't popular at all and you're going to try it again and share it again. Don't be afraid to do that. So when it comes to money and donations, donors do not give to institutions and organizations. They invest in ideas and people in whom they believe. So be sure that you're telling a good story. And use social media to tell that good story. From an advocacy standpoint, again, start with your 3 things. And keep your message the same across all the platforms. Sure, it will be tweaked a little. It'll change a little depending on the audience and the platform. Tell stories about your program and services. Tell stories about your clients, about your donors, your partners, or if you're looking for donors and partners. Tell how it can change people's lives by having a, $10,000 donation can buy, X number of things for your clients. Even your vendors, do not overlook the people that you're paying money to for their services. They can help champion your cause as well. And don't forget to connect and simply ask. Ask people what they want to see on your Facebook page or your Snapchat or whatever that is. Ask them, what do you want us to talk about? You'd be surprised at some of the answers. One more quick drink, I apologize. Engage. It's an overused word. It basically means talk, communicate, right? To do that, you have to be active on the channels. Do you have to be active on all the channels? No. But you should at least have your real estate where you can reference people. Maybe you're not using Facebook right now, but you can put at the top or at a pinned post and say, hey, we talk more over on Snapchat. Here's a link. Maybe you're going to use it later on for something else, but you at least want to be posting a little bit every now and then and focusing on the other channels. Ask questions, take a survey. SurveyMonkey.com is a free survey site that you can quickly and easily do surveys. Of course, use images and GIFs and emojis, and use videos. Promote that you'll be doing Facebook Live or that a video is coming. Facebook, I mentioned, is competing with YouTube right now. Share that interesting content and ask again your readers, your followers, your targeted audience, what do you want to read or see right now? Share your events on all platforms. We mentioned Facebook events. And cross-promote on all platforms. I even have house ads, so if I'll sometimes post an Instagram post that says, are we friends on LinkedIn? And then I'll put my LinkedIn profile link in the comments to push people to LinkedIn to get new LinkedIn contacts. Or on Twitter, and I say, are we friends on Instagram? Are you following each other on Instagram? Same thing, cross-promoting. Influence is huge because, as I mentioned earlier, you are what you post, tweet, share, retweet, like, and love. And you are who your friends are. So if I'm looking to hire someone or work with someone, I go online to their social profile and look and see what they're posting and tweeting, who they are following, and who's following them. Do I go through all 10,000 followers? No. But I go through who they're actively engaged with. Because birds of a feather flock together. You are who you hang out with. So follow your influencers and people that are talking about your three things. You can get great ideas from them. You can get great ways to connect with people. Share and comment on their content. Don't be afraid to reach out to influencers, whether that's a vice president of a company or someone that's selling, CoverGirl Cosmetics, one of the models, or whoever it is that's doing YouTube videos about how to do makeup, and they've got a bajillion followers. Don't be afraid to reach out. And, you can always be a guest on a Twitter chat or a Facebook Live event, as we mentioned, or have a guest as well. So focus on your three things and your target audiences, and then write, post, and share and comment on the things that you want to be known for. So the big question I get, no matter what, is which platform's best? That's what everybody wants to know. And the answer is really simple. It's the one where your audience is. That's the one that's best. Be there, be active, share good content, reward people for following you by giving them a simple shout out, offering them a discount. And remember that in the end, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So you can sit there all day and talk about how I want to do this with those three things. I want to be this with those three things. But a goal without a plan is just a wish. And of course, as you can see on here, I certainly don't take credit for that. I really love this quote. It's Antoine de Saint, if I spoke, I think that's French. His name, I don't know how to pronounce his name. But I branded, again, this particular ad, you can see my name at the bottom, because I want to be associated with goals and plans and things like that. So some final thoughts. Again, going back to those three things. And your target audience and your voice. Your voice is what you sound like online and the feeling that people get when they talk to you or see your brand online or your organization. Create a plan, and the plan is I'm going to write content, and here's my calendar, here's my target audiences, I'm going to host a Twitter chat, I'm going to be part of a Twitter chat, I'm going to go to an event, whatever that is, and keep it all in one place. What I have is like a notebook you use for school, the spiral notebooks that has like the metal spiral. I go and get those, and that's what I use with my clients. Don't make it hard. Or if you do things electronically, a lot of people type in their phone. That's fine too. Just make sure you go back to it. So create that plan and focus on the three things. If it doesn't involve your three things, don't be focused on it right now. Just keep moving forward to three things. Participate and connect. cross-promote on all platforms, and then monitor and adjust. What that means is that if you're seeing that it's not working, first of all, give it some time. A week is not normally enough time, okay? So be patient, after 3 months maybe. Now, if it's paid ads, that's different, right? You can tweak those paid ads to different target audiences. But if it's your content and stuff like that, just be patient with yourself. Because social media, for the most part, and for most of us, is a marathon, not a sprint. So just be patient. Use video to your advantage, particularly Facebook Live. Create and use your home base. Remember the toys. If Facebook, Snapchat, if they took their toys and said, I'm going home and I'm going to charge you money if you want to come over, those kinds of things. Focus on your home base. Reach out and connect with people and be social. So now I'm going to take, if you have any questions, if you don't or you can't think of any right now, that's great. I'm happy to answer them after the event. I am online on social at all times. But I did want to share with you that this really isn't goodbye. And so I want each of you to feel comfortable connecting with me, primarily on LinkedIn or Twitter or WhatsApp, Snapchat. I'm a little bit on there. Instagram, it's Lisa L. Flowers 1. On Facebook, I am getting ready to turn my personal Facebook page into a brand page and then start a private Facebook account. But you can connect with me on Facebook if you want. Twitter is where I'm at most of the time, is on Twitter or WhatsApp and things like that. So I want to go back and see if there were any questions that anybody had in particular. Are you overwhelmed, or did you find this was something really good that was helpful? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that Twitter list is gonna hinder checking it frequently?
Hold on, I'm going to get this earpiece thing. I think I was supposed to wear that for questions.
Do you think that a Twitter list is gonna hinder me to checking it frequently?
Is Twitter list going to help you with
Hinder. It's gonna hard to check it frequently. I've tried to have a checklist, a Twitter list, but it was hard to check it frequently.
Oh, well, how often do you go on social media?
Like every day.
Just do it once a day. Do it once a week. You don't have to use your Twitter list every single day. It depends on your focus. So if you have a Twitter list, like what's an example of one of your Twitter lists?
Books, quotes.
So books?
Yeah.
So authors?
It's like a book club. They mention or tweet about quotes.
Okay, so it's people who tweet about books?
Yes.
Great. So
I found it hard to check it frequently. So maybe it takes me months to recheck again the Twitter list. Not like if I have it in my main page, the feeds.
The Twitter lists are right on your main page when you create them. They're right. I'm going to just go back through there just to see if I can do it right quick. The Twitter list. Now, on your mobile, you'll have to use the 3 dots, or there's a little thing on your mobile, and it'll say list. So, for example, I tell you what, on Twitter, go to Lisa L. Flowers. And I'm just going to go back to where I was, because on your mobile, it's a little different than on your desktop. If you go to my Twitter account, there should be something to the right with 3 little dots, and if you click on it, it'll bring a drop-down menu, and it'll say list or something. So if you go to my account and you subscribe to one of my lists, or if you're on your account and you create your own list. So let's just walk through this for a second. Yep, so go to any of my lists that you think you may want to subscribe to. So you may follow me, but depending on the list that you subscribe to. So I think what you're really wanting is you're wanting to create a list because you're already following a list. You're already subscribing to that book list, right? Is that your list or someone else's list? So you created a list Now, do you use Twitter every day? So on your Twitter account, there's a drop down that will show you your list. It used to be more prominent, and you used to be able to see it.
I mean, if it would be easier if I'm reading through home rather than having a list.
It depends, because for me, for example, so this is how I use my list. Let's say it's of organizations here in Saudi that I want to come back and work with. So I create a list, and I want to be part of their conversation on Twitter. If I'm on my own Twitter account, I go to my Twitter list of those organizations in Saudi, and I just click two things, and you see every tweet right then and there. But in terms of how often you should go there, it depends on how important it is to you. And so I make it, for me, for example, I make it more focused effort. If I'm really focusing on a target, like, oh, I really want to come back to Saudi, or oh, I want to go here or there. I don't know for sure if that's answering your question, but the lists are only as effective as you use them. So it's not, they're not going to push messages to you and say, you know, this or that. The list is simply a way to organize it. I don't know if that answered your question. I appreciate it. And I'm happy afterwards if you want to see a list of mine and how I use it as well. Any other questions about Twitter list? Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is ابريل, Inclusive Design and Communication Consultant in Qadirun Business Disability Network. I see that you met my colleague Khulud.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my question might be a little bit specific to the network, because we are an entity that serves companies to create inclusive work environments for people with disabilities. And honestly, we've been facing a bit of trouble in social media and our presence, because our services are delivered to B2B basis. We're providing consultancy for companies. And at the same time, we're indirectly serving people with disabilities. So my audience are actually divided between the normal, the expanded platform, which are people with disabilities and their presence on social media. However, companies, on the other hand, might be harder to reach. Especially that LinkedIn might be not, it has its strength here in Saudi Arabia, but the usage is not as, other platforms. So what do you recommend? What is your best or top suggestions for a company that is B2B and at the same time has a second target audience that is in the mass media platforms in general? Thank you.
So thank you for that question. So the first one is simply, where's your B2B audience and where's your other audience? Where are they talking?
Basically on how to hit two audience at the same time. One of them is businesses.
So where are they talking now?
Actually, from your recommendation, it's LinkedIn, but on the ground, I think the main channel for now is Twitter. That's what our main presence is.
Oops, sorry.
But at the same time, in the kind of content and messaging, how to create engaging content, especially when you talk about also, I don't want to say sensitive topics, but disability still ranges within our, moral model, the medical model, and the social model. We're trying to move the conversation towards the social model. We still have our barriers here in the mindset. So whenever we talk about disability, we do face a lot of feedback that probably negative whenever we, hit the topic or talk about it, not as, important in creating the positive conversations between them. And at the same time, you want to reach companies and you promote your services and you try to connect them. At the same time, you have different alliances and partnerships with government entities, with other NGOs, all, going into their own directions. And you are the consultant. Your character is the one who gives advice for everyone. And that's our tone and personality on the social media platform. But we get kind of tripped around creating constantly engaging content, because with time we start to lose the diversity of topic we talk about. It's either too technical to share on social media, and at the same time it's too probably sensitive to touch on, or probably would create a lot of negative.
So then you have to deal with negative feedback. So
yeah,
go back
it's
to
a dilemma somehow, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a way out of it.
So a couple of things come to mind. So going back to your two audiences. So your client, the people that you have your B2B. So your B2B people are talking somewhere online. So where are they talking online? You have to, I don't know, you would know. You know what I mean? So maybe they're not really talking online yet. So maybe that is creating a Facebook Live series of events where you interview them. That's a great way to start that conversation. Or maybe it's a Twitter chat. Maybe it's within a LinkedIn group that you start.
Well, if you're talking about here in Saudi Arabia, most corporates still use newspapers to spread the news and talk about their achievements.
Right?
And,
but that's promoting and that's marketing. You're trying to build relationships, right?
Yes, exactly. So
Right.
it's probably still on the one-to-one meetings and, on-ground events or
Right.
activities.
So a couple of things you could do to find out where they are online and which platform they're using for business is do a survey. Do you have their email addresses? Create a survey on SurveyMonkey asking 5 questions. What is of interest to you? Now, again, you're thinking about your industry, so you're going to automatically populate that survey with 5 things within your industry. Not necessarily what your organization does, but 5 things within the industry. So which of these topics is important to you? The second question might simply be, which events do you attend? Maybe you list some events that's common within the industry. The third is, which social media platforms do you use professionally? And list all of them, right? Number 4 is, would you be interested in being a guest on a Facebook Live event or a Twitter chat or whatever you decide? And then the 5th one is whatever you might want that to be. I mean, maybe that's, are you aware of that our organization does this? Right? So keep it short and sweet. Send out the link to that survey in an email. And even if, let's say you've got an email list of 500 people, right? If you get 50 back, that's more than what you had. So those 50 people are interested in talking to you. And then you're going to know which platform they're on. The other thing you would do is maybe when the receptionist answers the phone as kind of a fun once-a-week thing, you can say, okay, everybody that calls in today, you're going to say, hey, we're on Snapchat, whatever your protocol is, right? Are you on Snapchat? Are you following us on Snapchat? Maybe when you're having the one-to-one meetings and you're giving them your business card, you can say, I want to let you know we're on Snapchat. Are you on Snapchat? Maybe it's having a sign in the reception area with your Snapchat. I'm using Snapchat because it's used here, but LinkedIn or whatever it is, right? So survey them, ask them how they want to communicate with you, because they might not fill it out because they want to keep just emailing you. So I would ask them and then communicate with it. Now, what if they say it's split half and half? Half of them are on LinkedIn, half of them are on Twitter. Guess what? That's where you're going to be talking, right? That's nothing wrong with that, because at least now you know 50 people more than you did before as far as how to reach them. Or ask those professionals themselves. Are you struggling with this in this community here? What do you guys use? So with the other audience, which is on a more personal level, of course, I would do the same thing and survey them separately, right? And figure out where they want to chat. In the United States, we have a lot of laws about we can't talk about personal medical issues online hardly at all. And so, maybe that's where it's a password protected entry on your website, and there's a community behind a firewall on your website. So that might be something. Does that kind of help you?
Yeah, great. Thank
Okay, good. Thank you for that question.
Good follower on Twitter for you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate your time today. And as I mentioned, it isn't goodbye. So please connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and feel free to join the marketing group on Facebook. And you can sit in there and ask questions. You can send me an email or a tweet. And I wanted to also say thank you. I really appreciate the organization. here that had us here as a sponsor and being a part of this conference. And if I can help any of you in any way, please let me know. And thank you for coming to this session.